Hi, I'm Kory Cooper, and I'm in the Boo Club.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Battle of Ontario Hockey Podcast, featuring a Senators fan and a Leafs fan. We're here to talk about your two favorite teams, the rest of the NHL, local hockey, hockey all around the world, and to bring back memories from your favorite hockey teams and players. If you love the Leafs, Sens, B-Sens, NHL, or any other hockey, including the late Belleville Bulls, you are going to want to tune into our podcast. The gloves are off, the buckets are spinning, let's get the chirps flying. Welcome to the Boo Club!
Hey guys, welcome to episode 8, season 3 on the Pay It Forward Sports Network, the Battle of Ontario Hockey Podcast. I'm Brokey. That's Flem. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, not too much, buddy. Just loving life. Leafs still rolling here. Just points. I think the last time they lost was the game we went to on Remembrance Day. So, didn't get a point, I guess. So, I'm loving life right now, buddy. No complaints. Love the Bobcats hat too. That's sexy. That's a nice find.
So, yeah, my mom moved about a year ago, so she finally gives me these totes that she had. And, of course, I was going through them and finding stuff. So I work out of the Demon's Den, and I need a better heater. So I thought, I'm going to throw a toucan. Of course, you and I play for the Bobcats, I'm sure a lot of the listeners did back in the day before it was the Junior Bulls. But this hat is a little tight. I don't know how long it's going to last on my head because we were like 10 or 11 years old probably when we wore them.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. My head's gotten a little bit bigger in more ways than one, eh? But yeah, your Leafs are rocking. Holy shit. I didn't realize it was November 11th because that's a month, buddy. Yeah. So that's probably the hottest team in the NHL right now. Wouldn't you say? I know Jersey's lost and so is Boston lost the other night to Phoenix or Arizona.
Oh, that's something we didn't touch on. Did you see the fight in the crowd? The Boston.
I didn't. No.
Oh, man. So it's just like these two Arizona guys. The game was in Boston, right? I think.
Yeah.
And just these two Arizona guys. And there's like 5 Boston guys just keep coming up, just feeding them. And then the Arizona guys are swinging hard, though. Like, there's a couple just swinging like fast and heavy. And then one guy, poor guy, he's got his short over his head, and he just leaned back and cocked, and a girl walked right in front of him. He just cocks a girl, like right in the face. And then he knows he's screwed it. So he just jumps, just crowd surfs down the whole crowd from row 10 down to row 1. The cops come and crowd surf after him and get him at the bottom. It was a good fight, though. It was a really good fight.
Did you see the one that was there was something, I forget where it was. So 2 guys were fighting in the stands and one guy was pretty much getting beat up and they broke it up. I think you did see it. Anyways, a few people said it to me. And then all of a sudden the guy was getting chirped from people up above a little bit, 10 rows up. And he takes his head and he smashes the glass on his own. He takes his own head and smashes the glass and knocks himself out. What the hell? Did you see that one?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Oh my God. It was what are you doing? But we should mention that we have a special guest today. This guy played for the Belleville Bulls in the golden era, the mid-90s, of course, playing with, Danny Cleary, Richard Park, Brian Secord, who we also had on, recently. This guy has been in the hockey industry, I guess for 30 years since playing juniors. So that's pretty crazy. He hasn't taken a year off from playing, obviously in the OHL and then playing pro for a while and then getting into coaching as a goalie coach. And now is the general manager of the Kingston Frontenacs. So today's guest, which we will get to in about 5 minutes, guys, is none other than Kory Cooper. But we just thought we'd tell you that right now. But we got a couple things to chat about, obviously, with the Leafs and the Sens. Maybe a couple jokes here and there. It's good to see Brenda's back. The man cold's all done. So you must be feeling better, buddy.
I'm feeling good, yeah. And I just want to give a shout out to the sponsor of the show, Gerald Bilker from from Primerica Financial Services. Gerald's a great money manager. They do you can manage your stock portfolio, life insurance. They're honest, hardworking guys there at Primerica, and we trust Gerald with the Pay It Forward Sports Fund. So if you're looking for a money manager, you're looking to save for retirement or just get some advice, give Gerald Bilker and Primerica Financial Services a call.
Yeah, definitely worth your call, guys. I've dealt with him in the past. I know Fleming has, and a few of our friends and followers have. And, he's a great guy and knows his stuff. So give Gerald a call. And these guys are also help out us with Pay It Forward Sports and supporting our events, which in the long term get more kids involved in sports, underprivileged kids. So guys, it's a great thing. Gerald's a great guy. The next thing I want to talk about is, guys, we have some, we kind of launched it last week, but we have 2 buses. This is a great Christmas present. Tell your wives or your significant other, or maybe just buy it for yourself. Who cares? But we have 2 buses, 2 different trips, okay, to watch your Toronto Maple Leafs, the hottest team in the NHL right now, take on the Ottawa Senators, who's starting to turn around here. You never know if they pick it up. They might be fighting for a playoff spot. One is March 18th. The second is April 1st. They're both in Ottawa. Buses leave from Belleville. Tickets, so prices include everything. So your ticket, all your fees, your taxes, your everything. Because we know when you get tickets, it's got the fees, it's got this fee, that fee, whatever fee. It's like trying to buy something off Fleming. He's got so many fees, and then of course, a coach bus with a bathroom, comfy seats. We've done this. I think I've done 3 or 4 just with the Leaf games and the Sens games. And then we've done Blue Jays trips and everybody loves it. We have people come back. These tickets are going to be sold fast. So get a hold of us. You can get a hold of us right through any of our Facebooks or email jeff@livefortodaytravel.ca. But again, it's going to be a blast. Tickets start at $220 for in the middle, but up top, and then lower thirds are $260, I believe, and first level seats are $350. That's all taxes, fees, everything included, guys. There's nothing over that. If you wanted to go to both games, we would be able to give you some sort of discount. So get a hold of us. They're going to be awesome, guys. And there is a limited number of seats available. So get yours before they're sold out, because every single year I've done this, people come in and be like, Jeff, I need some tickets. And it's like a month out. And I'm like, I don't have any. Well, no, like, I'm sure I can go. And I'm like, the bus is full. There's nowhere to go. They won't allow me to put you on the roof like they do in India. You ever seen the trains in India?
No, I
They
haven't.
freaking put people all over the top and everything. Anyways, that wasn't a knock to India. I was just joking. But no, so it's going to be a ton of fun. Hopefully the Sens come out victorious. But anyways, let's talk about your Leafs, the hottest team in the NHL.
Yeah, so they are just hot as a firecracker right now, buddy. And it looked like, it's funny how the Leafs kind of play out, because their defense and goaltending had kind of been carried them the last, week and a half, 2 weeks. Obviously, Marner's on fire. You can't stop him. But I mean,
holy, that guy, you can't. It's just like every game I look, and you know what? He's fucking playing. Like, it's not like he's
hard.
just sitting there, getting an assist or a goal and making one nice play a game. Like, I'm watching him fucking block shots. The other night, did he not have a stick? He had no stick, and he's fucking throwing his body everywhere.
Did you see his goal? I think it's against Tampa Bay, where like this is where I think he broke the record on a slap shot. He comes in, but like he gets tripped behind the net. He's literally sitting on his ass. He makes a saucer pass right to Tavares, like just drops perfectly right on the stick. Tavares fires wide. Marner, skates out, comes around, gets the puck and just claps it home for the record breaker. Like, he's on fire right now, man. Like, there's just nothing you can do to stop him. But anyway, Saturday night, Brokey, though, it was different because the Murray was shaky. The defense wasn't great. And the Leafs still walk away with a 5-4 victory. My boy, Willie Nylander, 2 goals, 3 assists. Hey, he's starting to turn into one of those guys where he hasn't had one of those stretches like he's had in the past 3-4 years. Every year, he gets in a couple stretches where you don't see him for 10, 15 games. He's pretty much gone, right? Hasn't happened. I think he's second on the team in points right now behind Marner. And he's a driver right now. He's driving the bus up there with Matthews. They're playing unreal. Brokey, funny little fact about the Leafs. They scored 5 goals Saturday night. Guess how many guys had points on those 5 goals?
5.
6 guys all had. Yeah.
No, I looked at the stats. I didn't know the exact number, but I did look at the score sheet and whatnot just to see.
So that's
I think I saw it.
That's a big concern, especially with Robinson going down, is the secondary scoring. Can it come? Right. But I mean, when Marner scores 23 in a row, you don't really need him. So there's a Via going by, eh? Heard that one.
Well, yeah, I kind of live close to the train tracks, but usually you've never said it, but no, and that's the thing is, like, guys are going right now, so it's working out in Toronto, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the scary part is, like, if something, and I'm sure it will, like it does every team, but there'll come a time where there'll be a game or two or maybe more where the pucks aren't going in. Maybe the guys are beat up a little bit or whatever the case. And that's when you need that secondary scoring, Yeah. I look at my team, Ottawa. There's guys that have played 99% of the games and have 1 assist. And you're forward. Like, how are you in the NHL? Like, I don't get that. I know you play defense, you block shots, you're on the penalty kill. I get it. But come on, you must, like, some of that baffles me. But anyways, the Leafs are hot. I think the biggest thing for them, though, is, like, keep this going and get first. I honestly think,
avoid Tampa Bay
at the end of the day, it only count, like, playoffs are the biggest thing, but give yourself the easiest route. Agree with that.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I think you got to avoid Tampa Bay at all costs. I mean, say what you will, I'd rather Boston over Tampa Bay. I take my chances. I don't want to get into a dogfight with Tampa Bay just because they have one of the best goalies on earth. They're the team that, they do it over and over again. So, I mean, I understand Boston's hot and they're unreal, but I mean, don't get into that mix this year. Do not play the 2-3 game. Do not.
Is this the year that Tampa shits the bed though? Like, I know good teams are good, but man, you go to the finals that many times. Like, man, that
you want to be the one to test it.
You play 82 games, and I know they're turning it up again, and Tampa's looking really good again. They got off to a slow start, which is understandable, but come to the last 10 games playoffs, are they going to be worn out a little bit more than other teams, especially like a team like the Leafs? Like, and I'm not even just chirping them. I'm just saying in general, how many more games has Tampa Bay played than Toronto the last 4 years?
Yeah, 100%. But I mean,
like 7, 14, probably 22, 4, 60. You think it's 60 games?
Oh, it's more than that, man. Over the last
that's
4
years,
a
whole fucking season almost.
Yeah, they've probably played
a lot of hockey games more. And I'm not just saying. I'm just using Toronto as a.
And they're hard games too. It's not like
they're even harder
like a Wednesday
than the
night.
Like,
so
more than its regular season as far as like that, and that adds up. So I don't know if it's funny how things change because before the season started, I was on Boston to shit the bed. I said, one of these teams is not going to make the playoffs for sure. It's going to be either Boston, Washington, or Pittsburgh. And I was kind of against Boston. And the injuries to me, I thought they were going to be out longer, but they were still sick without these guys. They're first in the league, hot as a firecracker. And I thought their goaltending might be a little bit suspicious. It hasn't been. No. So to me, I don't know if I would. Like Boston's been hot. Obviously, they lost to Arizona, but everybody has a bad game. But fuck, I don't know. I just is Tampa the year where they take a step back? I don't know. It's catch-22. But either way, both those teams are going to be good. I mean, you finish first, you're going to have a way better chance to get past that first round playing the 7th or 8th seed. Because the 7th or 8th seed is going to be a drop off from those two without a shadow of a doubt.
100% here. And just
is Florida even going to make it? Florida's not going
to make it. Florida's pretty much. I don't think. They're not going to make it. They're at 30 points.
There's still a lot of games left, but they got to get on a streak here.
Yeah, but the thing is, only 3 teams are going to make it from the Atlantic right now. Like, look at the what's the Rangers? What's that division called there? The Metro. I mean, those teams they're flying right now. I mean, you're going to have to beat probably Pittsburgh out for that last spot right now, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Pittsburgh or the Rangers or Detroit. Is that
Detroit's in the Leafs conference.
Detroit's just out. Oh, okay, sorry. I just meant for the 7th, 8th spot. The wild cards is what I'm talking about. Because you got the Islanders in there too. Pittsburgh's top 3. It all depends. I mean, one of these teams got to get on a streak.
Washington's going to get hot.
Washington's right there. They're actually they're tied with Florida, but they played an extra game. So they're only 3 points out of a playoff spot though. And realistically, Florida has a game in hand. So I mean, they're still right there. But are they going to get in? I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. But I mean, there's still a lot of hockey to play. I mean, we're not even halfway through the season, so a lot can happen. A lot can change. Streaks can happen. Guys get cold injuries. A goalie gets hurt. Who knows what's going to happen, right?
What do you put the Sens' chances at right now, bro? I mean, they're sitting there. They're at 24 points. You got to pass Buffalo, Montreal,
100%.
100%. I love it. I love the confidence.
You didn't ask me 100% which way. Well, there's a fucking thread there. That's about all I can say right now. And that thread has been there for about 2 weeks and it could have fell off any time and it's gotten really thin, but it's still there. Ottawa plays Anaheim, last place team in the league tomorrow night or Monday night. They have to win that without a question. Then they play Montreal and Detroit. My theory is if they win the next 3 games, they're alive still because Montreal and Detroit, they still got to pass. I know they're not in the playoff spot, but you win those. Now, all of a sudden, you're 5-6 points back from a playoff spot, pretty well even games. With more than half the games left, you still got a chance. You don't win those, like you win one of those 3, you're done. And DJ's got to go. I mean, this is the only thing to me that's hanging on to DJ is that they're still hanging on by a barely thread to a playoff spot. And that's just like their last 8 games, they won 5 games and lost 1 in overtime. So it's 5-2-1. That's a thread. That's a thread.
But you had a big win Saturday afternoon, I guess, against Nashville.
Yep.
And shout out to big number 16, Austin Watson. I think that's his first NHL win in a fight, buddy. He took it to that guy. I don't remember who he was fighting the other night, but
he doesn't win many. He's under the 10% mark, but he shows up. He shows up in fights and battles, and he's a battler. And
he was a skilled guy in the OHL once upon a time. Remember that?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't. But he's another guy though that I like it, but same point. I just don't see enough out of him to play a regular shift in the NHL.
No.
I just don't see it. You want to have the guy on your team, but I don't think he's missed a game. And to me, he's not bringing enough to be on a good enough team. The problem with Ottawa is their third and fourth lines. To me, their third line right now is a fourth line. And most of their fourth line is probably AHL players. Like Kelly has 1 assist. He's missed 1 game, I think, the entire year. So they played, 28 games? You're telling me you got 1 assist in 27 games? Like, come on, man. You're not in any – if you're – well, I don't play enough. Well, guess what? They're not playing enough. Obviously, you haven't earned enough ice time, so you shouldn't be there anyways.
Yeah.
Like, start moving other guys in and out. I guess there's been the odd injury and stuff. I get that. But, I mean, come on. And all the other guys are – Joseph has played okay. He's played well enough to play on the team. But is he well enough to be a good third liner? Probably not. Maybe between 3 and 4. Mate is a fourth liner right now. He hasn't done enough penalty kills and stuff. I get that, but that's fourth line material. Watson, again, maybe he's your 13th, 14th forward. Same, like these guys there's no depth there. And it's the same. Like if you look at Ottawa's scoring this year, it's pretty much the same as Toronto's.
Yeah.
Like as far as the top 2 line score, even Ottawa's the top line. Sometimes the second line kicks in. They should be scoring more than they are, and they get a lot of chances. Like DeBrincat's on that, and he's pretty much snake picking. I know he scored last game, but the top line goes cold. Fucking probably not going to win.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can tell the pressure was on. You can tell they're feeling the pressure right now because Shabbat was a loose cannon the other night.
Yeah, I don't know.
What did he like? He fired like
cool.
He had a little snap show moment in the first, and then in the second, like I don't know what he turns and swings his stick and like drills Hamonic right in the face on the bench. Like the pressure must be on there, and those guys can feel it for sure. You can tell.
Oh, for sure, and they know it. And Shabbat's been great. I think it's like 7 games or 8 games since he's been back, and like it's literally fucking night and day, like night and day. Like he was horrible. He's back to where he was because I know I talked him up last 2 years and I thought he was great, and that's where he's back to again. So it's funny. Maybe he was just hurt or bumped. Maybe it was maybe between being hurt, too much pressure at the time, or just a little bit of everything. He didn't have his confidence. Maybe all that, and then you regroup. I know we talked about this already. So, Ottawa's hanging on by a thread. Game by game is the way I take it. Like you don't lose. There's no way they lose to Anaheim tomorrow. As far as I'm concerned, like you might as well just fire DJ. Yeah. And I talk about fire DJ. Well, you have to do something. There comes a time, right? You can't lose the last place team at home. So they got to win their next 3. They win their next 3. They're still hanging there by a thread, but maybe the thread's a hair thicker. Maybe it's got another thread on there.
Yeah. One thing I want to do before we go to Cooper here, one thing I want to give a shout out to Shane Wright. Scores his first NHL goal the other night against Montreal. So that's something we didn't talk about the goal, but I mean, we talked to Shane Wright with Kory Cooper, who's the GM of the Kingston Frontenacs, just kind of about his experience with Knight, what kind of player he is, what kind of future he sees for him. So that's something you can anticipate in that interview coming up here in just 60 seconds or a minute here, Brokey.
Yeah. And Shane Wright is going to World Juniors.
He is going to World Juniors.
So that'll be fun to watch. That's a couple weeks away. So
World
Juniors is always an awesome time.
Love it.
The other last thing we got is Pay It Forward Sports is regrouping and doing a lot of plans for 2023. Obviously, we're with Pay It Forward Sports. That's actually what runs this podcast. So we got some we want to have bigger events this year, guys, and that's what we're working towards. So each golf tournament, hockey tournament, whatever it is, we're going to make them way bigger and way better than they were before. So it's not just your regular hockey tournament that you're going to be in. It's not going to be your regular golf tournament. They're all going to be different, and every single one you're in is going to be way bigger and way better than anything in the area, without a doubt. So we're looking forward to that, guys, and we're doing a lot of prep for it right now. So look for that in the early 2023, even maybe before. We might have some advertising out, and we're going to have some awesome ads this year. We might as well say it. We've hired a videographer, which we're going to be working with the next few months. Actually, we're going to be working with all year. So we're going to be videoing parts of these tournaments. We're going to be doing it for promotional stuff so that you can actually, know what's going on with the tournament, see how cool it's going to be. And afterwards, let's say you go on our celebrity golf tournament, we're going to have videos and photos and all that stuff of the tournament, and then have basically a montage, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, for after it, right? So really, really cool stuff for Pay It Forward Sports in 2023, guys. We are ready to rock.
Yep. So if you want to check out the best sporting events and tournaments in Ontario, check out payitforwardsports.ca. Guys, we're in it to win it this year, and we want to make the sporting events we run the best events in Ontario, best prizes, most fun. So don't miss any events we're running with Pay It Forward Sports this year. And a guy who's going to be at the Pay It Forward Sports 2023 Celebrity Golf Classic coming up right now, Brokey. Here he is, the general manager of the Kingston Frontenacs, Kory Cooper. All right, guys. This man played 3 seasons with the Belleville Bulls and immediately led them to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals berths and is regarded as one of the best goalies to ever come through Belleville. After his time in the OHL, he would go on to play 9 seasons of professional hockey, putting up winning records everywhere he went. After his playing career, he immediately transitioned into coaching and progressed through the ranks from goalie coach to assistant coach and is now the general manager of the OHL's Kingston Frontenacs. Ladies and gentlemen, Kory Cooper. Thanks for coming on, Kory. We appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. We know you're busy and, you've got a busy schedule and obviously a really, really important job. So thanks for spending some time with us today, and we'll bring back some old memories, hopefully, for you.
Yeah, I appreciate the intro on that. I don't know if I'm one of the best to ever come through Belleville, but I certainly enjoyed my time there. And good to know that you brought up a stat already. I wasn't sure of. I think I pride myself on winning games. It wasn't always the best stats, but winning record every season to me is kind of an important one. So that's good.
Yeah, I was looking everywhere you went. Maybe a year you were 1 game over 500, but everywhere you went, you were always over 500, and it was impressive.
It's good to know.
Just talking about stats right now, I'm going to pull up another weird stat. I don't know if you know this. So your second year in Belleville, you finished with more points than 12 of the skaters on the team that year. So I think you had 8 assists. So were you always a puck handling goalie? And do you remember much about that year? What was going on?
Well, there's a few things behind that, I guess. So number one, I wandered all over the place when there wasn't a trapezoid rule. We'll get out and play the puck, and you live by the sword, you die by the sword. I'm sure there's lots of times where I turned it over as well. They don't have a stat for that, fortunately.
Yeah.
But probably the other part of that, we had some pretty good players in Belleville. So a lot of times you can set the puck up for a Richard Parker or Danny Cleary and let them go end-to-end and reap the benefits out of an assist, right? So having fortunate enough to have those types of players on our team at that point certainly helped that total.
Yeah, so you're saying lots of primary assists, no secondary then, right? Just
primary. Just primary. Try to get on the power play, move it around. Yeah.
I saw that stat. I thought it was crazy. So that's a good answer to start. So how did you, can you just tell us a little bit where you played minor hockey and how you kind of ended up in Belleville? I mean, it looks like you're from out east, right? So how did you land here?
Yeah, I'm Prince Edward Island, to be honest with you. I'm an Islander, and back then, I guess, and you could choose any league where you wanted to play, but I played Junior A in Smiths Falls, oddly enough, through a contact and connection in the Maritimes, and was able to come up here to play my Junior A year, and then got drafted from there subsequently, and could have really chose, like I said, the Quebec League, the Western League, of the OHL. My cousin, who's a couple years older than me, actually had a similar path, and we grew up together in PEI, and he played a year here in Kingston with the Kingston Voyageurs back at the time. He chose the Western League. And played in Kelowna, I believe, Tacoma. Now they're the Kelowna Rockets. But for me, I thought being I was playing in Ontario was kind of a spot where I had a good draft status, was set up, and just chose that is the better path for me. And I remember it was Kevin Abrams and Larry Mavety who found me in Smiths Falls, and I thought the OHL would be a great fit, and behold, it worked out to be able to go to Belleville. And I'm certainly fortunate about that. Being from the East Coast, my parents were concerned that you're going to play way on the west side, They're like, great, another 3, 4, 5 hours of driving. It's already 13 hours to get to Belleville. So they were pumped that it was a team that was on the east side.
Yeah, for sure. So what was your first camp like when you come to the OHL? Because, I mean, things were definitely different then than they are now, right? Like, camps were pretty much full-out war. So, I mean, a little regret maybe coming in your first year, or was it just smooth sailing kind of thing?
Well, fortunate on the goalie, so I wasn't really involved in so much of the war, but I did get to witness a lot of that stuff back in camps then. It was, there was a lot more fights and whatnot involved, and guys played hard, every practice, every session. I remember my first camp, I got injured, so I hurt my shoulder. Nothing serious, but I really had a hard time, to be honest with you, trying to catch a puck. I couldn't raise my arm. I remember it, and I remember the last session before the cuts were made, Mav came down. It's like he didn't care what the injuries were. Everybody was playing. And I remember, going in there in the period I think I played in training camp, and I'm like, if anybody shoots glove side, I can't catch a puck. Basically thinking that. And I remember Radim Bachanek, who could really fire it, was a high pick, obviously, in the NHL, and he let one go high glove, and I swear I just watched it sail by my shoulder because there was no chance I was catching up to him, maybe not even with a healthy arm. But I do remember those kind of moments. I remember a lot of those guys really, everybody just laying it on the line in those types of scrimmages and sessions. And, it was highly competitive and how teams were made. So fortunately I wasn't involved in any of the rough stuff, being the goalie, but certainly was an eye-opening experience, I guess.
What was Mav like? Because obviously you kind of just said that, like, it was one of those things where you got an injury or something, you're playing, you're going to tryouts. Obviously, you could see now that you're running a junior team, times have changed, and, really you can't do that like you could back, 25 years ago or whatever it was. So, I guess that shows a little bit of his character, but of the way it was back then. But maybe you could talk about him and, first getting to Belleville and dealing with Mav and, his philosophy and how he ran things.
So Mav's one of my idols, and helped me get into where I am now. But going back then, he was always one of those guys where his bark was bigger than his bite. You were always a little concerned about Mav because he had the big, deep voice, and he was intimidating to guys. But at the end of the day, man, that guy always had your back. He was there for you. He was almost like your father figure in that sense, that he'd get on you and he'd be hard on you. But if you needed something, he was always there for you. What people don't know about Mav is he kept evolving. I think that's maybe misconstrued at times. Like, as he worked his way through his years of his career, it wasn't like he was stuck in kind of that mode, right? He was obviously evolving with the players and the way things were run every year. So yeah, back then it was hard. He was hard. He was challenging, but he loved you. And you know what? You loved him. You loved playing for the guy. He was a player's coach, and I can't speak, high enough for that. How I was treated with him over my whole career, not just as a player, but I got to coach with him and see it firsthand. And then, getting into management here, and he was always around for me. So to be honest, I have nothing but great things to say and talk about of Mav and the type of person he was.
It sounds like he was a major part of where you are today, right? Obviously, that's kind of what you're saying. There's a huge piece. Would he be one of the biggest pieces, if not the biggest piece, for your success to stick around the game this long?
He's a really big piece of it, really big. And to be honest with you, I'm sitting in my office here now in Kingston upstairs, and I've got a picture on the wall up here of him and I on the bench together. And in classic Mav form, he's got his hands in the air, and I'm just looking at it now, and he's screaming, he's cursing at the ref, I guarantee you, right? And that's what's going on here, and I'm on the bench beside him with my arms down low because you're not gonna. He's obviously in control of that one, and his voice is going to really carry. So yeah, he's one of those guys. He helped pave the way for me in my career. He's the one that got me into coaching here in Kingston when I started back at the OHL level on that side of it. He's the one that hired me. So yeah, he played a major role in me getting to where I am today.
Yeah, that's awesome. Huge part of the hockey community in Belleville and then in Kingston, obviously, right? So, but what do you got, Flem? Do you want to go back to that early days in Belleville kind of thing?
Yeah, I was just going to say, so like the first year in Belleville, you guys make a pretty deep run, right? You guys go third round. You got like Secord, Cleary, Craig Mills, those kind of guys. Do you have any memories that stick out from that first year in particular?
Yeah, we had some good runs there. That first year, it was Mark Gowan and I really split the duties most of the year. Mm-hmm. And he was awesome. What a great teammate and goalie partner for me there. I remember us having a really good team. I remember us having some older guys that were, again, highly competitive, but we had those stars, right? Those, with Millsy and Seeks and Danny and Parksy and all those guys, right? We had some high-end talent in a challenging league. And I don't think we went in any series as the favored necessarily, but everybody knew we had a good enough team to make a bit of a run. So I just remember, to be honest with you, the weather turning nice, and you're still playing hockey and sitting outside in the sun and the fans rallying around you. I remember, driving down Front Street and seeing all the signs, the Go Bulls Go signs. Those are the things that kind of stick with you. The hex sign on the rink and the big signs all around the facility, right? And those are the memories that come to mind, right? And just being around the teammates. It's not necessarily a moment in a game or anything like that. It's more about the camaraderie with the guys and the community, the city, and how people rally around the team. That's the stuff for me and the memories that I have, of those early runs.
Yeah, just one question from me here. So we always talk about the hex sign. If the hex sign were if you were on the other side and the guy's shaking that hex sign down at you, what would you have done? Like, how distracting would have that been for a goalie? Because, man, he got within centimeters of guys sometimes.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. I don't know, it'd be a pain in the ass to be the visiting goalie for sure. I mean, you'd obviously never be able to do that now, right? They put the mesh up, it would never be a thing. It would be. I mean, when you're in the zone, you're locked in the zone as a goalie, it probably doesn't affect you, right? But that moment where you're not and your mind may be kind of wandering and it happens, especially at the junior level, that thing would drive you bananas, I'm sure. So I'm glad I was at the other end of it and never had to really, worry about that. But yeah, that was it's something you'll always remember, right? And something you'd never probably ever see again, right? Because it just wouldn't be allowed. But that was it was pretty cool times.
Yeah, and like you said, the time where the opposing goalies had their problem wasn't probably when they were playing. But let's say you get scored on and you do that little skate to the corner or something like that. You're already pissed off. You're trying to regroup. Then you look up and you see this sign, hanging over. That's probably where they're like, it probably makes it worse and doesn't allow them to get back in the zone maybe as quick, right?
That's exactly what it is, right? So now you start to have second thoughts. You have all sorts of these little, I don't know, visual cues, whatever. But it's like, man, is the net even behind me? You start to get distracted, right? And those are things you start to think about. So, having someone kind of in your ear all the time and hearing those noises all the time, it's a distraction, right? So you look up at it, and I tell you, if I was playing, I would have never looked up, not once, not ever. It doesn't matter if I was hearing it or not. I would never have allowed that to get in my head, or at least let them think it was in my head. But I would try to avoid that at all costs. I'm sure that's what visiting teams goalies, did, but it was there, man. It was it was a big part of all those runs. You saw it every year, so very cool.
Yeah, for sure.
One last question for me about year one here, Brokey. Doug Dowell, he's just one of my all-time favorite Belleville Bulls. Do you ever remember anyone swinging him like Doug or what?
No, that guy was bananas.
Oh yeah,
he was he was tough. And he was like willing to fight anybody. It didn't matter who it was, right? But the thing about me for Dougie was he was unbelievable along the walls. So you get the puck in the corner. It doesn't matter who it's against. He's coming out with it. Mm-hmm. Right, so he prides himself on winning all those 50-50 battles in short areas, which is still a skill today that translates well, to pro hockey. He was really good at that, right? And he's one of those guys, if your team really needed him, right, in those types of moments, to fight another team's tough guy, to rise to the occasion, he was the guy that was willing to do it. And that's a hard job, man. I don't care what anyone says. It's a hard job in those moments to know going into a game or a moment in a game that's that could happen. But Dougie was the guy that would always lay it on the line, right? So impressive player, type of guy you need in your lineup if you want to win, right? And he did that for our teams.
Yeah, and a couple guys I'd like to ask about too, because basically when you kind of started with the league, that's kind of when probably Fleming and I, because we were big fans, we had season tickets, probably got hooked, Flem. We were probably 6-7 years old enough to realize what it was about. So for me, the two guys that really stand out from that era are obviously Dan Cleary and Richard Park. It was almost like, especially Richard Park, that speed, he was like a Nate Robinson later on, right? But they got everyone out of their seat. Where it's like they got the puck, they're going down the wing. Maybe you could talk about those two guys there.
Yeah, Parksy was dynamic, especially the big ice surface, right? So he'd get the puck. Like I said, he's probably a guy that if I had 8 assists that year, maybe he was in on 6 of them, right? But because he's the guy that could really take it end to end. He had such dynamic speed and a high skill set, right? So not the biggest guy, but tree trunks for legs, right? And he could go. Right, so you get him on one-on-one off the wing. He was hard for a defenseman to contain back then. So he just had high skill set and ability to make plays, but more importantly, probably just an ability to beat guys one-on-one. Right, not everybody has that ability, but he certainly had it. And then he had that quick release shot. I remember in practice all the time. He's like the guy that comes off the wing and it's like, okay, he's at the blue line. You have time to get set, but all of a sudden now he's at the top of the circles. It happened instantly, right? And then he releases the puck really quick, which back then, maybe it wasn't, guys didn't have that kind of quick snapshot. It wasn't really a thing to release the puck that fast. But he had that, that club in his bag all the time. So he was challenging. Danny was different. Danny, high IQ. This guy could make plays and score goals. He was a guy that protect the puck, in the offensive zone, kind of hold guys off and be able to find open space, open plays, get lost in the O zone. Different, but these guys put up massive points, both of them, right? So I lived with Danny. I know Danny pretty well, and And he was awesome. I mean, obviously, as far as my teammates go, he's the guy that I have the best memories about because I spent the most time with him, and seeing his game was really cool. I knew he could do it. I had him under 17 camps before we came to Belleville. Both of us when we got drafted together that year. I knew him. I knew who he was, and I'm like, man, this guy is really, really good. And it just translated on through. But he was just high IQ. Did a little bit of everything, did everything well, and just continued to score. He was an impressive talent.
Yeah, for sure. I got a couple things I got to show you guys that I just found today. So check this out. Can you see it?
Yeah,
There's
I can see that
right
one.
there.
Yeah, I remember that one.
95, 96 program. And you probably can't see it there, but there's autographs on here, and you're actually right there. So that's kind of cool. I found that this morning. And one more I wanted to show. If you remember this photo, you guys got with the bikes and stuff. I guess that would have been the year after or whatever, I think. So
I remember that picture because I'm sitting in the car. I'm sitting in the car in that picture. I'm kind of hidden, to be honest with you.
I see it.
I'm hiding in the car. I've actually seen that picture recently, and I don't know where. Maybe I'm getting a bathroom put in my basement, so I've been pulling out a lot of old shit and finding some stuff. And I think I've seen that picture recently, so I do remember that one. Drank a lot of apple cider that day.
Well, definitely something neat though, right? Because you don't see a lot of teams go and take a character type photo, right? Usually, you're all in your windsuits or you're all in your hockey gear. So just something I thought was cool, and I found it, so I thought I'd show you and all the listeners there. So definitely really cool. What do you got, Flem?
I was just say so. In your 3 years in Belleville, were there any like big rivalries with team? Like I know you guys kind of went at it with Kingston quite a bit, but any teams that was like it's going to be go night and a lot of line brawls back in the day and I don't think you got any fights, but there's ever a moment you're thinking like, oh, it's getting heated up here and I might have to go to the other end, or did it ever get close for you?
Well, I did fight.
Okay.
Yeah, but not when I was in Belleville.
Okay.
Actually, when I was in Sudbury in the OHL, but and there actually was a couple I almost get into, one with Kitchener and definitely had a fight in Windsor. But I mean, the rivals in the whole East Division were always that way. It was always hard-nosed. So Kingston and Belleville, obviously, that's an easy rival, 40 minutes down the highway. And they had good teams. We had good teams that kind of matched up that way. So always hard games, but that was more what I remember back then, just good games. Obviously they play hard, not necessarily the most physical ones. Peterborough was obviously, good. Ottawa was good. And there were some tough matchups, but I don't recall any moment where I'm like, okay, this is going to get out of hand with those teams, because it was more, their tough guy and, Dougie Dow or, Ryan Reddy or something along those lines where they might match up. So it was more of those guys that had a little more physicality to them would end up fighting in those games, and that would kind of maybe, calm the waters a little bit on it. But I don't really recall, other than the rival being intense and hard and games mattered each and every time. Being like any sort of big brawls within them. I could be wrong on that. Maybe I was just able to get them off my mind, but we really just focused on trying to beat them on the scoreboard every time, right? So,
yeah.
And the tough guys always, went at it pretty good.
Yeah.
Looking back to the Belleville days, just because we talked about the camaraderie and everything like that, and that's the biggest memories. Let's say you're back in Belleville, you're 18, 19 years old, and you're going to go out for a night, or you're going to go to the movies, whatever it is. What kind of guy? Who would you like to go with? Who's somebody where one or two guys you're just like, this guy's a time to go with? Something funny's going to happen or whatever. Is there a couple players that might come to mind?
Well, my crew, to be honest, when I was there, was generally Danny, me, Danny, Mike Van Volsen.
Oh yeah.
Robbie Fitzgerald and Ryan Reddy are probably the guys that come to mind right off the top of my head. As the guys I probably spent the most time around. But the one thing about that, our teams there, we were so close. So I use those guys because maybe we spent a little more time with them, but frankly, our teams were always close. We were always getting into trouble around town as best we could, but with each other, whether it be, hitting each other's cars with eggs or something, doing something I was like, we probably shouldn't have been doing, but innocent fun and only with each other. Yeah, sure. And that's kind of how we did it. So we were just close teams. We spent a lot of time, during the nights, during the days together, whether it's playing cards, going to movies, whatever it may have been, but we spent a lot of time as a group. It wasn't like, here's a group over here and here's a group over there. I found that we were really extremely tight, and probably a good reason why we had success, to be honest, because everybody had each other's back. But for me, those are the guys I still remember vividly in my time at Belleville. Spent a lot of time around. I mean, Ryan Reddy's on my staff now. He's a scout for us here in Kingston, and Izzy, so I see him all the time. And when we had Mavs party here in Kingston in the last fall, I guess, in 21, a lot of those guys came back, right? So like Boydie was here, James Boyd. I spent a lot of time with Boydie. I guess I probably should have included his name. Boydie and Millsy and, Ryan Reddy and those guys all around. Vanny was here, Van Volsen. So being around here was just reminiscent about good old times, right? And, it was fun. But those are the guys that spent a lot of time around over the course of my career. But we're just such tight teams that we were together often and doing something stupid for sure.
Now, when did Reddy come into the picture? Because I thought he would have been a little older. So he must have come in, if he came in second year, he must have been borderline an underager, wouldn't he been?
Yeah, he was, I think I'm 1 year older. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 year older than Ryan. I think it's 1 year. Yeah, he might have been drafted the year after. So we spent, 3 years together.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But I still see him all the time. Lives in Peterborough. And, he scouts for us. He coaches an 08 Peterborough team and around the rinks. Right, we still catch these guys. I mean, Van Volsen's kid plays for Peterborough, right?
Okay.
Jack Van Volsen, so Mike's son. So you see these guys around the rinks, which is kind of cool, right? Because then you can grab a beer, shoot the breeze, bring back some old memories like this, right? So it's fun to see those guys when you have the opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. Now, just we've had a pile of Belleville Bulls on, in your era and a little bit after, and every single one of them talks about pretty much the same thing you said. Like, Belleville was a tight-knit group. Our team did everything together. If we went out, we went to Little Texas or wherever it was, or the movies. We were always together, and the community always riled around us and all that. Do you try and bring that to your team in Kingston and go, listen, guys, this is what we need to be like, and try and make it kind of the same way?
Yeah, there's a piece to that. I mean, so no, they're not going to Little Texas. I can promise you that. That's not a thing. Right? I'm not gonna preach that on anybody's show.
That's called stages.
Yeah, they're not going there either. I can promise you. That's not the way it is anymore. But I know what you're saying. But yeah, culturally, I think we do kind of demand that we do team stuff together. And the one thing about here is with a younger group this year, but they are really close, and we put this younger group together because we want them to kind of grow together, and experience that and have each other's back. And it's kind of a family setting, to be honest, right? So, again, it's kind of my memories. The best teams I played with or played for were always teams that were close-knit, right? And spent their time together and had each other's back. They cared about the guy next to them. That went on in Belleville, and I think if you're going to have any successful team, it's a big part of it. That's what we were. So, yeah, I essentially would want the same thing here for our guys, but maybe a little more PG.
Minus the Little Texas or even the stages there, right? But, so you went, and then you went on and you ended up playing 7 years pro, was it? And if I'm checking my stats, your last year pro was the UHL, right? And was that?
Yep. Yeah, it would have been the UHL.
Is that the same year that the Trashers were there? Of course.
Yeah, I did play against the Danbury Thrashers.
Oh, I don't know if Fleming knew that. So
I didn't.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll touch on your pro career first, but let's hear about that season and maybe playing them. Is it as crazy as the documentary was?
Yeah, I'd say it is. Again, at Kalamazoo, we only played there the one time, but you got that vibe. Actually, I remember watching the documentary. One of the games is against Kalamazoo. That was after my time there. So that was intense. But to be honest, when we were there, I don't remember anything bad happening. I remember seeing like the box scores or different things about that team, and it was off the charts. But I knew some of the guys in their team because I played against them obviously for a few years. And I'm like, yeah, this is going to be exactly what they think it is. And it's like the documentary was. I mean, so Brent Gretzky was on that team, right? And in Danbury, but Gretz had played. We played together before that, right? In Port Huron. I remember him talking about it, and he made the transition to go there, and that was unique circumstances. That group. It's cool he did a documentary on it because that's kind of how it was. It was that team had a lot of serious tough guys. I couldn't imagine what their practices were like,
Just
or on a daily basis. So that's a close knit group, and they're like brothers. Holy smokes! Imagine that shit show. But yeah, it was kind of cool, to be honest. Yeah, like nothing happened when we played against them. They were still a good team because they have those 5 or 6 like heavyweights, but then they had these skill guys like Gretz around them, so they could score as well, right? So it wasn't like they were just that. They had these guys who could really play right at that level. So yeah, unique team to say the least.
Yeah, and in the documentary, they say before they started, we're bringing Gretzky, right? And of course, it's Brent.
Yeah.
So what was it like? Because you played with him a couple of years before, or was it? What was he kind of like? Obviously, we all know what his brother's done and everything.
Yeah, I mean, for that level, really, the United League's like the East Coast League now, right? At the end of the day, it was all absorbed under the one. He was very good, like very good. He could score at that level regularly. So again, he scored major junior too, going back into the Belleville days, right? But but he could really score there. He was a top end player in that league when we played together. So I got lots of great things to say about Brent. Never spent a lot of time around him in Port Huron, and we actually both lived on the Sarnia side when we played there. And yeah, good guy, good dude. Again, another guy you can tell a lot of Belleville stories about. I know he's still around the area. Around Belleville the odd time. I think he still lives in Brantford, but he's a cop down there, but his wife's from Belleville, so they do spend enough time in the area throughout the course of with the winter, I believe, and probably a couple weeks in the summer. So, yeah, good man.
I saw a funny stat about him the other day. It said him and his brother have all-time brother combos. They're the number one all-time for points. I think Gretzky's like 2,500 and he's like 4 or 5, right? So
yeah, it makes sense, right? Makes sense. I'm sure he has that. He holds that record close too. It's like, yeah, there he goes. My brother and I. Yeah.
So Kory, can we kind of talk about coaching? So when did that come to your mind? And are there any specific coaches that you kind of had along the way that you're like, hey, this guy, I like this guy's style, and that's something I kind of want to get into?
Well, I mean, obviously as a goalie, you're kind of in that club, I guess, essentially, and you spend a lot of time around other goalies and goalie people. So that to me was always the path. I wanted to get into coaching. I enjoyed coaching. I did it back home at PEI in the summers, even going back to the Belleville days with younger kids. So I kind of figured that would be the case. I'd probably morph into that. I just didn't know when. No matter of when I was going to stop playing and when the right transition was. Transition's hard, guys, coming out of being a player to going into the real world, essentially. Not that this is the real world, getting into goalie coaching or coaching, but essentially there is a transition there to stop playing. And I spent time with Clint Malarchuk in Idaho, playing for the Steelheads out there, and he was helpful because he had a good goalie mind background. Went on to be the goalie coach in the NHL in Calgary. So he's one guy for me back then that kind of made me think about it in a different way. So I was always intrigued by it. But then kind of my mentor, to be honest with you, in coaching, and this happened after I started in Kingston, but later on down the road, is Rick Wamsley. I got a ton of time for Wammer. He's one of the best guys you meet out there, and one of the funniest guys you'd ever come across too. But very bright, knows the goaltending position, played a long time. So Wammer's really been a mentor for me. A guy I still talk to, weekly, even though I'm not necessarily doing the goalie coaching as much anymore. He's still a guy I keep in contact with regularly. So he's another guy that really was a mentor for me. So coaching was an easy transition. Like I said, the Mav hired me right away, coming out of play-in. So, to be able to walk into this opportunity was, pretty awesome that way. And, I had guys to bump ideas off of, thoughts off of, guys like Wammer, guys like Clint. Certainly super helpful for me and my coaching career.
So now, and then you ended up a year in Binghamton, and then obviously the Belleville Senators. Is that right?
Yeah, Wammer was the one who hired me, actually. So Wammer was the goalie coach in Ottawa with the Senators at that point in time, and it basically got to the point at that level in the American Hockey League that every team had two. They needed a guy to handle the NHL goalies and then a guy to oversee their prospects, and there was just no way to have one guy do it all, right? So I had met Wammer through my years here coaching in the OHL, and like I said, as a mentor, and he must have liked something about the way I coached or my personality or something. And we jived. He went to Ottawa saying we need a guy to help out here on this side of it. And It was for Binghamton. The team was in Binghamton. So back then I would drive. I was in Kingston anymore. I was coaching with Mississauga with the Steelheads, and I would go from basically Kingston around to Mississauga and then around the lakes to Binghamton, and I would spend a couple days in each spot every week, and then drive back up and home, and then catch games with either team whenever they were around or in the area, or it was convenient. So that's how I did it for a season or two, and then. Great experience, right? Because there you get your feet wet at the American Hockey League level. You're spending time around NHLers at development camps and NHL camps. So I'm learning a ton, right? As a coach, and not only from goalie coaches, but just coaches, how they approach players, how they talk to guys, what the lifestyle is like, all those types of things. I'm just talking to them as people, and so I learned a ton in my time with Binghamton, but more probably around the Ottawa Binghamton connection, kind of the whole organization, and. And then it's like they moved the team to Belleville, and it was like they moved it there for me. It was like the greatest. It was the greatest thing ever, right? I'm not driving around the lakes anymore. I'm not driving all the way down to, Binghamton's 3 hours from Kingston. You got the border, and it's 40 minutes from my house door to door. It's like 37 minutes is what it is door to door. It almost felt like they moved the team to Belleville for me. That's how I felt. I was super excited and stoked about it when I heard that was happening, and became more of a permanent position at that point in time. But it was a great experience still, nonetheless, being able to be there early on and get my feet wet before they moved it to Belleville, and that was pretty awesome when they did that.
Well, you stole that question right out of my mouth, because that was my next one, bringing it to Belleville and your thoughts. And I mean, for somebody that played for the Bulls and then was involved with the Belleville Senators, what's your thoughts on them bringing it back, more different than maybe coaching, but actually just back to the community? And is there a lot of similarities, or is it very different? Or, what's obviously two different leagues, we know that, but just having a team in Belleville, that means something.
Yeah, well, Belleville deserves to have a team, obviously, whichever level, it's at. Because, for me, going back to my experience as a player, the fan base was always really great, right? They always were passionate about the team, right? And care, and you could see things around town, not only at the rink. And that was a big thing for me. So the American Hockey League is a bit of a different beast, right? In the sense that you may not connect with the players quite as much because the turnover is so high, but you may get to see your players that were, playing for Belleville one night, playing in the NHL the next night on TV, right? So that's one of the kind of unique things with it. The difference with the Bulls for me in the OHL level is you kind of see these players progress, right? So you are around majority of them for 3 or 4 seasons. You start to, maybe develop a bit of more of a feeling for them, a relationship, or understand them as people, or see them around the community a little bit more, right? So it's just different that way. But my experience back when I played was always, you knew a lot of people around the city. They knew you, right? Whether it be at the high school or over at the Quinty Mall, wherever it may be, you start to have these different connections, right? And that's what I loved about it, was that small town feel. And they rallied around the team. You rallied around the fan base, So it is different from the American Hockey League standpoint. They got an unbelievable setup there, guys. It's, man, to walk in that facility every day and see the stuff they have at that level, it's pretty awesome, from that side of it. So they do get taken care of. They got a great staff there now with the Senators group. Again, guys I have a lot of respect for and time for and spent years with, and they helped me along the way too. So I can't speak, high enough about those guys, because they're, again, a big part of my development as a coach. To be able to get where I am. Troy Manis, Dave Bell are guys that I've had a ton of time around, and I wish them nothing but success, because they certainly helped me along the way too.
Oh, for sure. That's. Hey, I love how you're telling us all about the learning and everything. One thing I do got to say is, you probably don't know this, but thanks a lot for all the tickets. I used to get a lot of free tickets through Jeff Bateman. I'm best friends with Bateman's cousin. So Billy, Fleming knows him, would always text me, "Hey, you want to go to the game tonight? Bateman's got tickets through Coop." So there you go. Thanks
the
connection.
There's the connection.
And then Billy was over the other day, and I said, "Yeah, well, I haven't really, we were just talking about the Belleville Sens. We used to go." He goes, "Well, yeah, because Coop's not involved with them anymore." No, we both have kids now and stuff, but 4 years ago we didn't. So you could go on a Wednesday night. Yeah, okay, I'll go. Now it's like, well, who's going to babysit and all that stuff too? But
so what you're telling me is either Bates owes me a steak dinner or a case of beer. right? That's what you're telling
Oh
me?
yeah, for sure.
Okay,
For sure.
I'll make sure he knows
Probably
that.
more than one.
Yeah,
I'll
there
make
was
sure he
definitely
knows.
a pile of times that we got some tickets, but no, that's awesome. I love to hear it. And the Kingston thing, and then obviously moving back to Kingston, and then when you went back after Belleville, you started as an assistant GM and the goalie coach, right?
Yeah, essentially. And to be honest, that kind of all happened through kind of COVID. And nothing was really going on. There was no hockey being played. And I was obviously at Belleville when everything stopped that year. But I knew my contract was coming up, and I was trying to figure out kind of where my next avenue was and whether I stay with Belleville and continue on the following season. But just made me reflect a little bit on kind of what I wanted to do. Right, and the opportunity here in Kingston, and my connection with some of the people here, and they were awesome with me. My first go around, and I had, obviously I lived in Kingston and married a girl from here, and I just thought it was a good opportunity. It was a good opportunity to kind of just get out of just being known as a goalie guy, and take the next step on it. So it wasn't an easy decision because, like I said, I love those guys in Belleville. That coaching staff there is as good a staff as I've worked with. They're really, really good. But this came up in the opportunity and thought it was a good chance to evolve, right? So as coaches, as managers, for me anyway, like if you're not learning, right, you're just getting stagnant, you ain't getting better. So you ask out of your players each and every day, right, to find ways to get better. I think you got to be the same as a coach or a manager for that matter. So this is what I've always done. It's kind of what I know, and just continue to grow and learn, right? Surround yourself with good people. So I jumped at the opportunity because I thought that's how it was going to benefit me. And I still did the goalies at that point in time here. I've since kind of stepped away. I'm not doing the goalie stuff here anymore. I've come to find that at this level, it's busy enough just with the one hat on. The guys who try to do it double, like Boydie used to do it double, I'm like, man, you're crazy. You got to so I know he's just a GM at this point as well, but there's a few left, I think, in the OHL that are kind of coach and GM. But it is rare because it's a lot. It's a lot to take on. So I've stepped away from the kind of the goalie coaching side of it because it just, like I said, my schedule gets busy enough. And I've actually have Tyson Teachman handling the goalies. So another Belleville Bull connection, local Belleville guy. So Tice is actually here 2 or 3 times a week to work with our goalies, which is easy because I had him as a student back in the OHL as well when he was in Mississauga, and I've known him for a long time. And I can kind of help mentor him a little bit on this side of it, right? Getting to this level. So he's been great. He's been really helpful for our guys this year, our goalies. So another kind of Bulls connection, I guess, if you want to say, and bring in Tyson to work with our guys here in Kingston.
Yeah, for sure. I actually know Tyson pretty good. I used to play some ball hockey with him back in the day when I was a little bit lighter. But I see that he's actually doing that. I think I've seen him at the rinks a couple times in Belleville, maybe doing some training with some kids too. So it's always good to see the success. What's that?
He was at our 4-on-4 tournament. He was on.
Yeah, and he actually played at one of our tournaments with Pay It Forward Sports there. So.
Oh yeah,
yeah. No, I think they won it, didn't they, Fleming?
No, I think they lost it in the semis.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. But the last one I want to ask about is obvious one is probably Shane Wright. What's your thoughts on him? Obviously, he scored his first NHL goal last night. So, I mean, you got to be proud of that, being one of his mentors for sure. So maybe just speak about the whole process with him in Kingston and everything like that and, his future.
So probably since I've sat in this seat in this role, it's the most obvious question I get asked is tell me more about Shane Wright. What's going on with Shane Wright? Awesome kid, right? Good leader, hard worker, highly skilled, has a bright future in the NHL. And that'll all happen organically over time for him. Happy to see him obviously score his first goal, right? In the National League last night. And for Shane, it's obviously been a bit of I don't want to say a rough start, a rocky start, whatever you want to call it, kind of the up and down, the American League. The NHL is a hard league to walk into, right? So I know he's an exceptional talent. He's an exceptional kid, and he'll do whatever he has to do to continue to impact Seattle's lineup for years to come. Where it goes this year, I honestly don't know. I just hope him high success. Right, and seeing him score was obviously fun. Watching him score in the American League was cool. Watching his goals there, and just to see how his confidence kind of built up off of that into last night. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Shane's future. He's still our property as far as junior goes. We're just going to watch him progress and watch him play all the time. Our coaching staff enjoys doing that. I think for Kingston here, you want all your alumni to have great careers, right? And he's not the only one. We have a lot of guys who went on to play pro hockey last year. So for Shane, it's just, we get to watch him play on TV and see how he's doing, and we'll probably be able to do that for the next 10 to 15 seasons, is my guess.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I know we got to stop here coming up, so maybe we'll just end on this one here, Brokey. So, you've been around the game forever, Kory. You've got a tremendous passion. You want to evolve, keep coaching, and expanding your skills. So, how much do you love the game? Like, you obviously have a passion for it, and what does it mean to you?
It's never left. So for me, oddly enough, it's just like it's part of my life, right? I couldn't imagine waking up any day and not really thinking about hockey. To be honest with you, it's like I have my family, and then there's hockey. It's just kind of what I've always done, what I've known. I'm the type of guy that spends the day here at the rink, and the day kind of runs out, and I'm like, shit, where'd the day go, right? Because I'm just invested in hockey, so I'm passionate about what I do. I love it. Go home, see my wife and kids, get them to bed, and essentially I put on, like last night, for example, I think it was the Sens game on. They were playing LA on the TV, right? And watching guys but I like watching guys like Smotsy, like Batherson, guys who were in Belleville. I've obviously got to know a little bit, so I like watching those guys. So I do follow Ottawa, but I'm watching that on TV, and on my iPad I've got the London-Oshawa game on. Yeah. Right, so I'm just kind of a hockey junkie, right, and love what I do, right, and I don't really ever see that changing. I'm going to my, trying to set up my future and putting money aside and saving money, and I'm in there, I'm talking to the guy, and I'm like, he said, when do you see yourself retiring? I'm like, my wife's like, I don't know, 55, 60, and I'm like, I don't know, 70, 75. He's like, what are you going to do at 70, 75? I'm like, I'll probably be scouting somewhere, right? Like watching hockey players. I just don't, it's kind of what I do, right? So it's like,
it's probably not a job though, right? It's not like a job where you're going 9 to 5, it's something that you love, right?
Yeah. I'm just, like I said, I'm investing money, but I'm invested in hockey, right? And it's kind of what I'm trying to explain to them. I think sometimes people are like, you still want to be doing that? I'm like, I don't know anything different. I love it, right? It's just kind of my daily life. And, you get to meet a lot of people. You make a lot of connections, a big network. You have a lot of family that way. It's never changed, man. It's just like growing up as a kid, I spent a lot of time around the rink. My years in Belleville, a lot of time around the rink. I still talk to some of those teammates. You just meet a lot of people, a lot of good people in the game. Love doing it, love being part of it. Love evolving, moving on to new levels, new roles, right? This one, I'm still kind of learning. I'm getting better at each and every day. And I'm really just enjoying my time here, and being, again, just continuously involved in the game, right? It's who I am. It's probably who I'm always going to be.
Yeah. I just have one last one. Did you play with Batherson's dad?
I didn't. With Normie. I didn't play with actually, I did play with Normie for like 5 games in Portland, Maine, in the American Hockey League. Normie's older than I am, but we have talked about that, and we've talked about like running into him when Drake was in Belleville. I'd see him at different rinks, and we'd shoot the breeze. And what will we talk about? Our time in Belleville. We weren't together, but we'd both be able to have those stories and talk about similar stuff. So we did play together, like I said, in Portland for a few games, but we always ended up talking more Belleville Bulls stuff than anything.
And then you end up, coaching his son, I guess. You're the goalie coach, but still he was on the team. So that was kind of cool, that, and like you said, that's how the hockey world works, right? Sometimes, you're connected with so many people in so many ways. So
yeah,
that's
it's
awesome.
So much networking. It's so much networking. Like we played a school day game in Ottawa like 3 weeks ago, right? Against the 67s. We're up at but we played at that Scotiabank. Or no, I guess it's called Canadian Tire Center now. Canadian Tire Center. Yeah, Canadian Tire Center now. So our dressing room was right down from where the Sens room was. So as I'm walking down the hall, you see all these familiar faces, right? And these are guys that maybe I've met through my time, in Belleville with the Senators. Josh Norris is in there, and he's just another hockey junkie. He's taping his stick. He's not even playing. His shoulder's hurt, but he's, he just can't get enough of it. But he's around the rink all the time. Or you see, Shabbat, and these guys know you. Like, there's a network of hockey players, right? And again, that's probably part of the reason why I love it so much, is a lot of the good people that you meet along the way.
Oh, that's awesome. I love to hear the Sens stories. I'm a big Sens fan, so hopefully they can turn it around. It's been tough start, but I think they're young and they got a few years ahead of them. So
They got good pieces there. They got good pieces.
for sure. So, well, thanks a lot for coming on today. We really appreciate your time for one, and your stories and how you explain everything is absolutely awesome. So I know I really enjoyed it. So we really appreciate that. And maybe we can hook up in the summer. We'd love to have you at, I know it didn't work last year, but we'd love to have you at our celebrity golf event. It would be really a lot of fun. And you got anything, Flem?
Nope, that's it. We appreciate your time, Kory. Thanks a lot for coming on, buddy. And it was tons of fun. I had a great time for sure.
Fellas, anytime.
Best of luck the rest of the year. And, I love how you're talking about just keep growing and growing and growing. So, I mean, it sounds like the sky's literally the limit for you. You might be the GM in Ottawa in a few years. You never know.
Well, let's pump the brakes on that one quite yet here.
Hey, you never know. Anything's possible.
Yeah, I'll do a good job here for now.
Cup 2024 first, that's all.
There you go. Let's start with that.
Best of luck the rest of the year, though. Thanks again.
Okay, appreciate it, fellas.
Hey guys, welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed that interview with Kory Cooper. As you can tell, he's a very professional guy, but he actually really elaborates, and it was fun to hear his stories and how he actually explained everything. You can tell like this guy's a GM. I'm not sure if he was really ready for when I told him he could be the next GM of Ottawa, but no, awesome guy, and obviously been in the industry, sporting industry, I guess, for 30 years. There's a reason, right? He's a smart man and he does an awesome job. And everybody I talked to that knows him, like personally, is like this. He's a great guy. Loved him. Loved working with him. Loved being on his teams and all that. So it was a pleasure. And great job, Kory. Thanks a lot for coming on. And we wish them the best of luck this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think the Frontenacs are planning they're putting in a bid to host the Memorial Cup Rookie in 2024. So, I mean, if Shane Wright does come back from the World Juniors, I'm smelling that's probably a big trade piece so they can load up for that 2024 Memorial Cup, right? I mean, they've got a pretty young team this year. I think they're 500, but I mean, if you're going for the cup, I mean, you got to have a strong team that year. And I think it's going to be a cool thing to see what they do with Shane Wright and how that situation plays out once he comes home from the World Juniors. Does he go back to Seattle? Or is he coming back to K-Town? We'll see.
He'll end up in London.
Yeah, probably.
Everybody ends up in London.
London or Kitchener.
10,000 fans a game. They get more than friggin' half the pro teams. More than half the pro teams, don't they? But anyways, that was an awesome podcast, guys. We're going to have more of them firing off all winter long, and lots and lots of fun guests, whether they're from the local junior teams to major junior and pro and the NHL. So stay tuned to the Pay It Forward Sports Network, the Boo Club.